And a good morning to everyone, and welcome to Aging Positively Reunion Project, the annual Coachella Valley Conference aimed at providing practical information and inspiration for those aging with HIV. We are bringing together community leaders to improve the lives of older adults living with HIV for this virtual conference today, September 18th, which is National HIV/AIDS and Aging Awareness Day, and a day to call attention to the growing number of people living long and full lives with HIV and to aging-related challenges of HIV prevention, testing, treatment, and care. The conference will feature an HIV research panel of top experts discussing HIV and aging issues in our community, and we'll get started in just a moment. This conference is presented by Eisenhower Health. This year's event is the result of a unique collaboration among local service providers and organizations focused on improving the shared experience of older adults living with HIV. First, we'd like to thank our community partners, which you see on the screen now: Eisenhower Health, the Jocelyn Center, DAP Health, HARP, the HIV and Aging Research Project, also PALS, Gay Desert Guide, Let's Kick Ass, JFS, Association of Nurses for Aged Care, the Center, and Borrego Health. We'd also like to thank our sponsors today, including the ones that you are seeing on the screen today, many of them pharmaceutical companies who have helped pay for the speakers and the costs associated with this conference again this year. And a special thanks to Jack Newby. You can see the information on the screen regarding Jack and his help in putting this conference together from its inception. We'd like to thank him today. But we especially want to thank our committee members today, many of which, in fact, I believe pretty much everyone is with us today. JP, John Paul Allen, Christopher Christensen, Stephen Henke, Julie Hirsch, Valerio Avina, Brett Klein, Sue Lowe, Jack Newby, Candace Nichols, Rebecca Sandlin, Jeff Taylor, and CJ Toe. All right, we'll be getting underway in just a moment with today's Aging Positively Reunion Project. My name is Brad Fuhr, and I'm your host for today. And we are on Zoom. And I know many of us are used to using Zoom since we've been spending most of our lives on Zoom over the last couple of years. But just a few housekeeping items for our particular conference today. We have muted all audio. Once you logged in, you will be muted. And when we open it up for questions, then you can raise your hand and we can unmute you for the specific question that you may have. Please use that chat feature, which you'll find on typically the bottom right on most screens. And that chat function will be used to take questions. We prefer that you hold those questions until toward the end of the presentation so that all the questions are concise, and then we can pull those questions out and then start to open it up for questions toward that end. Now, one thing also to remember is that we have opened this up so that you may chat individual to individual. And in a moment, one of our next speakers is all about connections, and he wanted to make sure that because we've got nearly 300 people who have RSVP'd today, that you understand that there are, you can scroll through the screens and see all the various people who are on today. And you can also individually chat with those people. Again, just make sure in the chat function that you choose the person you want to chat with and not the everyone function, because you might say something embarrassing to the entire crowd today. Also with Zoom, just a reminder that we would like you to leave your camera on when you are able to do so. I know Greg, our first speaker, has asked that to occur as well. He likes the connections. He likes to be able to see individuals. So if you can, when you can, leave your camera on. We are recording this meeting today, so this could be used in the future, and by joining, you are consenting to be recorded. You can also select speaker view if you just want to see the speaker who is on the screen at that time, but there are other views that you can choose by the plus and minus buttons, et cetera, that you'll see on your screen. So typically our topics are 30 to 45 minutes in length, and that includes questions. If anyone has any technical questions during the conference, there are 3 Zoom hosts that you can reach out to in the chat. They are Brett Klein, Jeff Taylor, and Sue Lowe. Any of those 3 individuals will be able to help you out today. All right, I think that takes care of most of our housekeeping items today. And Jeff, I was going to throw it to you just for a quick second. I know you were going to just make a quick introduction of me, and then we'll start the session. I know we skipped over that slide, so that's okay. We'll make it all work.
That's all right. We can speak. We can still speak even if we don't have a slide. So this is Jeff Taylor with the HIV and Aging Research Project. As Brad said, one of the sponsors of the event. And we'd like to really thank Mr. Brad Fuhr from Gay Desert Guide for being our MC today, making sure everything goes smoothly. He's done this the last couple of years and has done an amazing job. So we're really happy to have him on board and doing this for us today. So thank you, Brad.
All right. And thank you, Jeff. We'll skip back ahead. I am honored to do this project every year. It's been a real labor of love, and we work throughout the year to plan this event. The committees, the people that you saw on the slides earlier, literally work. I see. I accidentally covered up my lens. Sorry about that, Sue. So the people that you see on the committee roster on that slide a little earlier work tirelessly for, I think it's 6 or 7 months out of the year. We start this planning process quite a ways in advance, and then all of a sudden, like in an instant, this event is upon us again, and we're all just kind of wondering where the time went. But a lot of work goes into the planning of this, and we thank each and every one of you for attending today. There will be a survey at the end. That will be another way in which to get some of the resources that you are going to be hearing about today. Not only will we be sharing those in chat, but we will also combine those resources and then make those available afterward. So if you needed a particular slide, a URL, et cetera, just know that that information will be available and it will not go into the ether. And again, we're recording, so in the future, this may be available on demand. All right, let's get started this morning. It is 9/12, Saturday, September 18th, and we are starting with a gentleman who has been with us before, and we absolutely love hearing about his 30-year plus survivor of HIV. He's been leading retreats and workshops for the HIV/AIDS, LGBTQ, and at-risk youth communities for over 25 years. Gregg Cassin started the Honoring Our Experience retreats for long-term survivors, which, like his other work, explores the healing power of community. And in the early days of the epidemic, Gregg founded the Healing Circle and the San Francisco Center for Living, and led conferences nationally with AIDS, medicine, and miracles. And he's a granddad, as we can see in the photo. Gregg Cassin, welcome today.
Greg, can you unmute?
Just that hello? Okay, I see faces now. They took on the screen and I can see everybody. Okay, everybody that can hear my voice, I want you to wave. Wave to the camera and wave. Good. Oh, I see faces.
So I see Greg's got everybody waving at each other. It's great to see everyone.
That is so nice. Yeah.
If you could
you feel free to stay here with me, Jeff. I'm going to scroll through. I want to see how many faces there are.
Greg, I don't know if you could hear us, but we can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
Yeah, I can hear him. Okay, so
I can hear him.
Would you just wave if you can hear my voice? This is Gregg Cassin. Good, 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 good. Andrea, I see you. Good to see you after a long time. Teresa, okay. Oh, then all of a sudden they all went quiet and it went to screensavers instead of their faces. Did someone turn that function off?
Nope, you're fine, Greg. Some people just turn their videos off.
Okay. So I'm gonna do a brief introduction of myself just because we all don't know one another. And in a perfect world, we'd be hearing from everybody. I see Hank Trout there, one of the editors of A&U Magazine. Thank you, Hank. Oh, it's so nice to see folks. I can't go through all the names, otherwise that's all we'll do. So let me just do a quick intro. It's such an honor to be here. It's so great to be. I want to just acknowledge the crew at Palm Springs and the community that you guys have created, that you folks have created. I want to tell a little bit of my story just so that folks know who I am. It's always interesting to know, like the background and how someone got where they are. I tested positive around 1985. I tested, how many people are like long-term survivors? Raise your hands. The folks I can see, how many people have been positive for over 20 years? Raise your hands. And how many people over 25 years? Raise your hands. And how many people, now I'm not leaving anybody behind. Everybody matters here. Oh, are you doing that for me? Did you just move it for me, Jeff? I have magical powers. I'm surprised at how well I'm doing with this thing. Okay. So,
doing great, Greg.
Hi, Roger. Hi, Jonathan Goldman. I have to say hello to some of these folks. Sorry. So you get all kinds of permission. You give into your 60s and then everyone forgives all the mistakes you're making. Martina Clark. Everybody's, here's something that we're going to do. If everybody knows how to go through, Terry Lynn, I see you. Folks that know how to use this without like blowing up their computer, press the little arrows and go through and see some of the faces. See some of the faces that are there. Make sure you get a chance to see them. Oh yeah, and I know that you're doing that because I could see the incredible concentration, and then all of a sudden we're seeing inside everybody's nostrils as we get closer to the computer. So look around. So this is how I'm going to start. As you're looking through the different faces, I'm going to do a little meditation for us. I want us to recognize the healing power of community. That when we come together, now in the early days of HIV, and some of us know those days, of AIDS when before we had any treatments, and some of us were going to the support groups, some of us were going to places to learn meditation, some of us were going to healers, some of us were doing all that stuff that they call touchy-feely, going to those groups, the hands-on healing, all that kind of stuff. That was all considered kind of, well, just like I said, touchy-feely stuff. And the thing that is so powerful now, and the thing that's so powerful about us coming together right now, this work that we considered touchy-feely, this work that was considered unimportant and superfluous, is work now that is completely recognized as incredibly important part of one's well-being. That coming together here, so even though we're not getting to do it, coming together in a conference, being in the same room together, the coming together and the building of community has such a profound healing effect that even now, I have the book and I put it somewhere because I was reading it last night. The Surgeon General of the United States wrote a book, and the title of his book, and it's all about wellness, the title of his book is called Together. And what he wrote in his book, he said, and I was listening to the video with Brene Brown, that social connection and having a powerful healing community, that you have this sense that you are not alone, that you are part of a whole, that is so incredibly important, that it is a greater predictor of one's mortality is isolation. It is a greater predictor than obesity and being a smoker. That being isolated, because we all know when the early days, maybe when we were newly diagnosed, listen, we all know that stigma still exists today, but in the early days of stigma and isolation, when we were afraid of coming together, when we were afraid of letting anyone know about our status, the amount of isolation, and it affects everything. It affects getting into care. It affects caring enough about yourself to be going to seeing a therapist, to be seeing your doctor, to be compliant with your medications, right? I want everyone to make believe we're in church and you're nodding your head and you're doing an amen, okay? That's right, everybody's here. So when we're looking through these faces, yes, I saw that, Jeffrey. When you're looking through these faces, I want us again to think, just for a moment, close your eyes just for a moment. And I want us to honor what it took for us as an individual. What did it take us to get to the place that we are in our lives today, and to get to be sitting in this seat and to be getting to be here today? What obstacles did we have to overcome? What incredible bouts of illness that we may have had to overcome. Some of us having to deal with the stigma of being gay, of being queer in our communities, of needing to come out to family members, losing the supportive community and family members. Some of us as hetero people, as women living with HIV, the stigma that some women didn't even get diagnosed because the doctors weren't even testing them for HIV because of the stereotypes of what an HIV positive person is or who an HIV positive person is. And again, let's look at the camera and let's look over the screen and just see what kind of resilience is on this screen right now. What kind of experiences are on this screen right now? We have so many stories that we get a chance to learn from, so many people and so much courage that we get a chance to that hopefully at some point today, and a little bit today in this session here, to hear from some folks. So I want people to look around and to see, is anyone seeing anybody? I'm just curious to know, in your looking around, has anyone seen anybody that they haven't seen in a long time, that they haven't like been in a room with or been communicated with in a long time? Raise your hand if there's somebody here. And if there is somebody here, please please write about it in your chat or write a hello to that person. So I want to tell a little bit about the work that we do, and I want to do this to take a moment to acknowledge again the community of Palm Springs and the work that long-term survivors are doing. That it was around 2013 that people started recognizing, and I would be interested to hear from Palm Springs to see if it was even sooner than that. But I know in San Francisco that it was around 2013 where people started talking about this concept of long-term survivors and this concept of like, we got to bring us back together. That it was a point where so many people being on disability, so many people were being isolated because the only time they were being together was going to walk their dogs or going to pick up food at Project Open Hand or something like that. So there was so much power in this idea of, oh my God, like we have this whole community of people, with shared experience, and we have nowhere to be together. Like we're all like living in our little studio apartments with that TV on, which it's one of my best friends, unfortunately. So so I want to take this moment to acknowledge the community of Palm Springs, but also to acknowledge that in like 2013, we started meeting with folks from the San Francisco AIDS Foundation, and I started meeting with a couple of buddies of mine, and I had worked in I have to look at this. It's soon. I had worked with a group called AIDS Medicine and Miracles, and I had worked with a group called the Healing Circle years ago, and took off from that. It's San Francisco, the AIDS Medicine Miracles organization had faded away, and all of a sudden there was no places where long-term survivors, where older folks living with HIV were coming together. We started having meetings, and we started meeting with a group of folks to talk about doing this program called Honoring Our Experience. And Honoring Our Experience is exactly what I hope will be happening today, at some point today, where people get a chance to share some of their story and some of their experience. What we find is that we get so much inspiration and so much when we hear stories of resilience. Isn't that true? That when we're with one another, in group, I see you nodding, Terry, that when we're with one another and we hear these stories, it can be stories of people walking through fire. But when you hear those stories, you think to yourself, holy shit, if she can do it, I can do it. We lift one another and inspire one another. I want to take a moment and see if people can put in chat, like how long have they been, for the folks that are positive, there's a lot of allies here. I see Bill Beiersdorfer. Congratulations on surviving your replacement. So put in the chat if you want to, and you're long-term survivor, put in the chat how many years that you've been positive. And let people see that. Let people see like how many years and what kind of wisdom and what kind of experiences here. And one of the things I want to do, also in looking around, one of the questions that we asked earlier is, if there's anybody here on this screen that when we're talking about reconnecting as long-term survivors, if there's anybody in this screen or any group on the screen that was a support or a help to you. Is there anyone, so flip through this, is there anybody here that made a difference to you, that helped you, that brought you out of isolation, or that helped you in the time when you were struggling? And I want to let people get a chance. So this is one of the things that we do at Honoring Our Experience, is we always take the time to practice gratitude and to acknowledge that it matters that we come together. It matters that we join together as a community together. It matters that we lean on one another, that we share our stories of resilience and hope, and that we lean on one another when we need to hear from another or we need the support of another. So I want to ask if there's anybody on here. I see you, Harry. Hi. I see you, Paul. Hi. I would like to ask if there's anyone would like to share a gratitude of somebody on this screen, of somebody here that they just like to say a thank you to. So I don't want you to be shy, okay? So I'm going to ask Jeff Taylor to look around and to see, is someone willing to say hello and to share a little bit of their story with all the people that are here? And I'm going to let you look, Jeff Taylor.
Yeah, I'm checking. If you could raise your hand.
I see someone said, so go ahead, go off. Whoever it is, I just saw a hand raised, so go ahead.
I'm happy to share.
Please do. Everybody say hi, Martina. Martina is her book is coming out in just a couple of weeks. And I'm going to introduce you. Martina was the first out HIV positive person hired by the UN to be in the UN AIDS program. And she started her work. So she was this little white girl out here in the Bay Area, and she tested positive, and she was coming to programs, and we were meeting with her, and all the women's programs, they support each other for about 20 minutes, and then they all get together and they train them how to become warriors. And Martina went out, worked with UNAIDS, and then we never saw her again for 25 years. And she just the book, and it's going to be coming out in the next couple of weeks. Okay, that was it. Thank you, Martina. Go ahead.
Now I'm going to look like a plant because
No.
I wanted to say thank you to you, Gregg, because the Center for Positive Living, when I first tested positive in the Bay Area, it was a place where I felt like I was home, and I could always go there and find people and find community and not have to lie or make up stories or anything. And it was a safe place. It wasn't a doctor's office. It wasn't a support group in the sense that I had to spew stuff I didn't want to talk about. It was just a safe, wonderful place to be. And I actually thought it was your house for a long time.
What?
Yeah. So
Thank
yeah,
you.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So please, somebody else, I would love, thank you, Martina. Somebody else who'd like to share and say, acknowledge somebody that's on this screen, somebody that's here. You can't be that shy. There's 80 some odd people on this.
This is Jeff. I'll jump in. I put it in the chat, but I would like to acknowledge Tez Anderson, who really elevated the issue of HIV and aging when he came out, as a long-term survivor and coined the term AIDS survivor syndrome. I think it made a huge difference in giving a name to what people are experiencing. So I'd like to acknowledge him and his contribution to what we're all doing today.
And Jeff, Marjorie had her hand up. So I wanted to acknowledge.
Yeah, I'm
Marjorie.
I'm unmuted. I also came to the Valley in the 90s positive, and the Desert AIDS Project and a lot of the people here in the Coachella Valley were really relevant to me for support. And Jeff Taylor was one of those, but there were many, many people that helped support me and guide me through as a positive woman who was still working at that point. And I really, really look back and say that I survived because I had people that were in my life that edged me on and spurred me on and got me the information that I needed and the help that I needed. And I just, it's valueless. It is just absolutely the most enduring part of my soul that I'm here today. And I'd also like to comment that Andrea DeLange and I were in a play. I was diagnosed in Los Angeles, and Andrea and I were in a play produced by Michael Kern called AIDS Us Too. And it was just a group of people that of all different experiences and colors, including mothers and fathers that lost children, that got up and stood in front of the stage and told their story in bits and pieces. We kind of rotated in and out with our adventures with HIV. So I want to thank her. She's here today too. So I just am very grateful.
Fantastic, thank you. Someone else.
Hank Trout has his hand up. Go ahead, Hank.
I also wanted to acknowledge Tez Anderson and his work with Let's Kick Ass. I went to the very first town hall meeting that Let's Kick Ass held, and there were about 200 people there. And I looked around and it hit me that I didn't know anyone in the room. I'd lived in San Francisco for 40 years and I didn't I didn't know that this entire community was still out there. I think a lot of us had that same experience that first night. And so I just want to thank Tez for, it was his work that awakened me to the fact that, I belong to a community. I'm not by myself. So thank you, Tez.
That one day thing that we did that evening at the LGBT Center, yeah, we had about 200 people there. For some of us, knew nobody in the room, and there were some of us who didn't know that the other people were still alive. They were like, it was a family reunion for some of those folks, and it was incredible to so many of us living on disability, so many of us, we weren't in school, we weren't in jobs, and we had no idea who was still around. We were not bumping into each other. We were not out on the streets a lot. And the amount of healing that has taken place from recognizing that there still is a community, and that there is a community of shared experience, and a community that has walked through so much and has so much. I think so many people that long-term survivors, we just were having a session on, we do a writing group every Thursday nights on Zoom. And one of the conversations we had were how so many people are comparing themselves to peers that didn't live through the early days of the epidemic, or didn't lose everything because of their HIV status, going on disability for 10, 15, 20 years, and have this self-esteem of like they're not living up to their potential, that they're not doing that they don't have the kind of money that, and own their own home and all this kind of stuff. And we had to do a whole nother resetting of, we did do something. For years, our full-time job was taking care of our fellow brothers and sisters in San Francisco. For years, our full-time job was taking care of our health and going to doctor's appointments and doing everything that we possibly could to remain well. For decades, we did that, so that yes, we have so much to show for ourselves. In the people that we proved ourselves to be, we have so much to show and so much to be proud of as these long-term survivors. So yes, and thank you. So that was an incredible meeting, those 200 people that came together. I had been living on disability, I think, for 15 years. And my particular thing was, I didn't need to be on disability, but I didn't know how to get out of disability. So every day I was like, please don't let me die on disability. Like, I wanted to be working again. And at that meeting, I met the people that would hire me after like 15 years. And I have no degree and nothing, and just Joe Schmo, but they hired me. And they've been complaining ever since, to tell you the truth. Okay, tell me how much time we have, Jeff.
We've got 4 more minutes.
Okay, good. So I want to see. I would like one person from Palm Springs to share what community, and besides Marjorie, thank you. It's nice to see you again. Someone else to just acknowledge the community in Palm Springs that you've created, because I think it's really important for us to acknowledge like what we've created and who it is that is providing this source of care and nurturing for us. Is there anyone that wants to jump in and just say a couple of words before we close? And I can't see everybody, so.
I'll jump in. Hi, everybody.
Christina.
It's Nicholas.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. I just want to acknowledge I don't consider myself a long-term survivor because I've been positive since 2007. And I know for a fact that my experience was very different from many of the people in this room. But I was an activist as far back as the early 80s around the issue.
Wow.
And
the reason I spoke up is I'm actually sitting in the affordable housing complex of DAP Health. And this room is filled with people that have made my life better. I mean, everyone, frankly, in this room who's been willing to express their truth in their own unique ways over time with courage and grace has transformed, the world for all of us. And I just think that Palm Springs is a beacon of light to the world, as evidenced by the attention the community gets throughout the world's leadership and the issue of the fight against HIV and AIDS. For example, David Brinkman has been invited to the White House on 2 occasions, among the many heroes and heroines and theys and thems in the room. So I just have the life I have today because of all of you, and want to thank you.
Oh my God, beautifully said, Nicholas. Thank you. Thank you. So is there anybody else? I want to just look around and see. This is really fun. The last year when I did this, I pressed a button that made the whole screen of faces disappear. So I did the presentation for 30 minutes talking to my blank screen. It wasn't pretty. I want to close. Let's take a deep breath together. And I want to end the way that we started. I want to acknowledge the resilience and the power in this room. I want to acknowledge the allies in this room, the HIV negative allies who lived through this, who cared for folks that were HIV positive, partners that were passing away. I want to honor the people, the long-term survivors, living with and growing old with this, with HIV. I want to acknowledge the amount of resilience and courage and compassion in this room. And I want for each of us to acknowledge what it is that we walk through, all that we have accomplished by living our lives fully. And I want us to recognize we have no idea of the inspiration and the strength that the person sitting next to us, the person on the screen next to us, we have no idea what kind of hope and inspiration they can garner from us, just from us being present and us sharing some of our stories. Don't ever underestimate the power of you being part of community and sharing yourself and your story with the people in these rooms and the people in your community. Every single one of us is needed. Every single one of us. We never know what the person next to us is in dire need of, and what just us sharing and being out there and sharing a little bit of our story, what hope we can bring, what love we can bring, what transformation we can bring into somebody's life.
Beautiful.
I'm so grateful to everybody. I'm so grateful to this community that's come together. Like Palm Springs, you are this little beacon, and now we all get to like get the graces from you because we're all on Zoom. That's been so much fun. Oh, so I want to say something. So I do programs in San Francisco. So we're doing stuff on Zoom. So if you look into Honoring Our Experience, it's a Facebook group. And we will be doing, oh God, we will be doing one of these days in-person retreats again. And we do them up at a retreat center called Saratoga Springs. And they are in really, really diverse. There's always greater than 50% people of color. There's 50% women that come to the retreat. We have trans women that come to the retreats. It's such a great, great experience, and they're just wonderful. So I want to just give a big thank you to the people that shared, thank you to the people that are coming together, and thank you to the folks that put this together and bring this space for us to come together. Just remember that we're all still there, even during this COVID time, and there will be an end to this COVID. I do believe it. Everyone said, no, we're going to be wearing masks forever. We won't. We won't be wearing masks forever.
Greg, thank you so much today. That was a wonderful. Let's give him even a silent round of applause, even if you're muted. Please, everyone, acknowledge Gregg Cassin today to start out our Aging Positively Reunion Project Conference. It is 9:43 Saturday, September the 18th. And Greg, I can't think of a better way to start off today's conference with the whole idea of honoring our experience and the words that you provided today and some of the feedback that you got, and just acknowledging the people that are all here together. Right now on screen, I see 100 participants. People will be coming in and out throughout the day. We have, I think, nearly 300 that RSVP'd for today's event. And I know some people are just coming in for portions of this. But Greg, yours was certainly worthwhile and a great way to start out the day. So thank you. All right, let us